Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're tuning in from across the country and around the world. This is the Life Midwest podcast. Join a washed-up musician, a communications major, and an Army veteran originally from the Midwest of the states as we discover life's endeavors and talk about current events. We also have a series called the My Friend series, and that's what today is. It's going to be a bit of a one-on-one show. The washed-up musician is by himself today. But got a very good friend with us today, and that is going to be Lena. How are you doing today?
I'm good overall.
I was going to say you don't have to lie to the audience. We can talk about the back pain thing if you want to, but a little bit of a surprise. German healthcare system kind of caught us off guard with. I don't want to say it let you down, but definitely didn't get off to the right start this morning.
Yeah, this morning was a bit hectic. Let's put it that way. But my mood is good despite the back pain.
That's good. And so you actually have something going on with your kidneys. Is that right?
Yeah, just a cystitis, basically. Nothing too serious, but I wouldn't have thought it was that. If I have back pain, I wouldn't think it is a cystitis. So yeah, that's not too good.
Well, Germans are tough, right? I mean, you could be you could be burned and you'd be like, it's just a flesh wound.
Well, I've had this pain for 2 months now, so I guess we're somewhat resilient.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you're wondering, Lena's a friend of mine. So correct me if I'm wrong here. So my mom and her mom were really good friends. My mom grew up in Germany, and so they were really good friends when she was growing up. And Lena and I met in 2016, was it?
16 or 17.
Yeah. We went to a hookah bar, had a lot of fun, and my youngest sister Colleen had hookah, which I never thought I would witness, and I was there to witness. So that was a fun time. That was really cool. Germany's an awesome place. Definitely go and visit it if you can. Love going there. Can't wait to go back soon. You are what's your nearest major city? Where would you say that you're nearest? Just for the folks who want to look at a map and pin a dot.
Yeah, the nearest big city would be, I guess, Saarbrücken, Kaiserslautern, that area.
Okay, gotcha. And then you go to school nearby there, right, too?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're going to school for law.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
I wrote my... it's kind of a bit complicated since Germany has a different system than America has with that, but you can basically imagine it's a bar exam I had to write, and I wrote that in end of August. And yeah, well, basically we have two. So it's more like a legal state exam, and you have to take two here, which is one you have to, like, after you're done with the uni stuff, basically, you write that, and then you go to court for like training and stuff, and then after all that is done, you have to write a second one. So we essentially write 2 bar exams.
That's insane. That is so crazy. Now, once you get done with the second one, are you able to practice anywhere in Germany, or is it kind of like the U.S. where there's only certain states you can practice in?
No, anywhere in Germany.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. I remember, I thought at some point you had said, and maybe I'm just imagining things, at some point, and this was obviously pre-COVID, that you had wanted to come and finish your degree in the States. Was that right? Was that a part of the dream at some point?
Well, it was like an option. There's like legal stuff you can do in other countries, but the uni I go to doesn't actually offer that specifically. And I might do a Master of Laws after I'm done with the first and second bar exam, basically, in IT law. That's currently my plan. And yeah, I just want to focus on like Germany and Europe, basically, since that's what I profit off of the most, I would say. And my interest shifted kind of a little bit from like international stuff to IT law.
What made you the transition to change to wanting to do that?
It was basically just listening to bits in the lectures I had so far that was just like teeny tiny glimpses of what it is from my professors when they talked about it and stuff. And I was like, damn, this is interesting. And yeah, tomorrow I'm listening to the first lecture of that topic, basically. So yeah, I'm kind of excited.
That's awesome, and it'll be from the comforts of your own home as well, so you don't even have to go there.
Yeah, currently for the best, since back pain.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, no, that is so cool though. And we're going to get into all these things today as we go further on into the episode. But not only do we have a badass at law, we have a badass streamer and content creator and just a general video game enjoyer, which I'm excited to talk about as well. I know you're a little bit, you're on a bit of a hiatus right now with the streaming, but you still do commission work. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, exactly. As you said, I'm currently not streaming actively, but I do kind of want to return to that eventually if I have more time. But yeah, studies are a bit too busy at the moment for that. So yeah. But yeah, I do commission work as well, which is art related. I draw mostly like anime, manga, comic kind of stuff. Mostly fan art or like OCs, like original characters that I create on my own, basically. And yeah, I've been drawing for my whole life. But I took breaks in between. It wasn't like a constant. Over the years, I took long breaks in between, actually. And then at the beginning of 2020, I was like, you know what? I'm getting like one of these digital drawing tablets. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start again. And since then, I've been pretty consistent. And it saves a lot of paper and pencils and money to have it like all digitally.
Right. That's so cool. All the links to how you can reach out to Lena for work and see her work and check out her Twitch, etc. Are going to be in the podcast description. Super excited to get into all this today. Probably going to ask you some Germany related questions as well.
Yeah, of course.
So just for the audience today, instead of the Life Midwest, it'll be the Life Germany. Which I'm excited for. So, with the My Friend series, typically what we start off with just as kind of an icebreaker is we talk about like our first memory. And if you've ever listened to the show, well, if you haven't, I'll give you a few examples. So my first memory is wetting the bed at 4. Yeah, I know it's a very charming one. Wes's was, oh my gosh, I don't remember what Wes's was. We've had a few friends who've been on the show and they just have like really interesting first memories. I'm just curious what yours is.
I have 2 I think of. One that is very present because my family kept talking about it, which was quite like a ridiculous situation. I'm gonna start off with that. So I was I don't even know how old I was. I was like 2-ish.
Oh my gosh, okay.
My mom in my room, there was like a table and there was a lot of like stuff on it, like diapers and like all kind of wipes and some sort of like lotion stuff, like a pot with lotion. And I took that for some reason. It was like morning or afternoon, like my mom put me in the bed and I just kind of didn't want to sleep. And I was like, oh yeah, what's a good idea? I'll just grab this pot of lotion and just smear it all over myself and the bed. There's still a picture of that somewhere around a house at home, and I've seen it. It looked quite ridiculous. It got in my hair. I had it all over my face, all over my clothes. My mom threw away the clothes because they were beyond saving.
Oh no.
That was ridiculous. Then like the actual first impression I could think of, I think just a couple of months old, which is quite surprising that I still remember that.
Wow, yeah.
I remember that my grandma was out with me on a stroll and someone looked into like the crib I was lying in and just waved me hello, and it was one of my brother's friends, I think. And that's basically all. That's all I remember. But I vividly remember that moment, actually.
Wow, that is crazy. I have like certain flashes. They're not like full memories, but I have certain flashes. Like, there's this art piece in the church that I was baptized in as a baby, and I remember like blurry colors, like a very blurry vision of that art piece, or certain things like that, kind of before coming to one morning and having wet the bed. That's so cool how it's, yours is that's very vivid almost, remembering exactly like somebody waving at you, and like that's just, we don't think anything about that now, but I mean, as babies, that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I think about it, I've probably forgotten most about the first 4 or 5 years that I lived. It's just like non-existent, except these, like you said, like these certain flashbacks you sometimes get, and it's like, oh yeah, right.
Yeah, absolutely. So take me from there. Have you always lived in the area that you were in as a child, or did you move around at all, or?
Well, basically, I just stayed in the same state the entire time. Didn't really move much, just like between certain areas, but overall stayed in the same grand scheme of things. But eventually, after I'm done with my studies, I do plan to move somewhere else in Germany because, the economy here is not that great.
Do you want to talk about that at all?
It's just basically an old like mining and coal region where I live, and we basically coal and stuff like that is just basically like not used as much anymore, especially since everything is like moving on to like more modern ways of producing energy, like solar energy, wind energy, stuff like that. And it's actually not really lucrative to like mine coal still here, since it's more expensive to get it out of our own ground than actually import it from like China. So yeah.
Wow. That's actually really interesting to learn, and maybe it's because I'm in I'm still living in the Industrial Revolution here in the U.S., where we use coal for everything, and we're just we have a political party that does not believe in clean renewable energy at all. But, but aside from
that here as well.
So as a child, you said you've been drawing your whole life. Did you just kind of is that just something that they had you do as a kid, and then you just kind of said like, oh, I really like this, and you just kind of kept doing it?
It wasn't something someone actively made me do. It was just like, I had a pen, I had paper, and then kind of just started. And I guess my dad was a big inspiration there, since he's a painter, and I guess I got my creative side from him a bit there, and he's kind of inspired me to like keep on doing that.
That's really cool. So aside from that, what other hobbies and interests did you have like as a kid, aside from drawing? Like what kind of stuff did you do like with friends and things like that?
I actually danced for a while, which I do not do anymore. It was just a couple of years, from like, I don't know, from 6 years on to like maybe 10. So for 4-ish years, which looking back at it now is not that much. But it felt like an eternity as a kid. Other than that, I was more of an introverted kid. I didn't really like do many like club activities or stuff like that. I was more like a nature kid, bit of a photographer here and there. My little digital camera I got at some point for Christmas, I think. But other than that, I was more like the kid that was like more inside, drawing, reading. I actually rode horses for a while, but that's about it. And then at some point I discovered video games.
Tell me about that. I think we could probably spend the rest of the show talking about the video game thing.
Yeah, probably.
But tell me kind of how you discovered that. What did you first play? What kind of stuff were you into as a kid?
The first contact I had with video games was because of my brother. Oh, surprise. He was big into World of Warcraft back then. And I was just kind of there, sometimes just like went to his room, watched him play while he was like playing with his guild or something, and I just watched the little cute characters dance on his screen. And I was like very mesmerized by that. I could have like watched him for hours, and at some point he got me, what was it, Finding Nemo for his PlayStation 2. And classic, everyone should know it. Yeah, I kind of just played that. Mostly he played because I just couldn't. It was too hard for me, and I just couldn't get past this one section. I still remember that, and I got so frustrated as a kid, and then he helped me. And yeah, that was basically the first video game I ever played. And that Christmas, I think he was the person that got my parents to actually gift me something video game related. I got my Game Boy Advanced for Christmas with Pokemon Mystery Dungeon.
Nice.
Yeah, that was really cool.
So the Pokemon addiction started very early for you.
Yeah,
that's
early.
Awesome. Yeah. That was actually my first. My uncle got me when I was like, I think it was like 8 or 9. Got me a Game Boy Pocket. The black and white screen. Yeah. And he got me Pokemon Red.
Also classic.
Yeah. So that was like my first Pokemon game, and really like my aside from that, I was just playing stuff that my dad had. My dad brought home a Super Nintendo when I was 2 years old, and my mom was so pissed. And he goes, "Well, it's for Kevin. Kevin will play it." And he got lucky. I ended up playing it, but not at the age of 2. But I always think about that. My mom still rolls her eyes about that, which is just funny. But so from there, I mean, yeah, it sounds like your brother planted the seed into video games, and I don't want to jump ahead too far, but how did you get from Pokemon trainer Lena to streaming on Twitch? What inspired that? So actually, I have had a time between that and now where I actually didn't play video games at all. It was more like a casual kind of thing with, I played like my Nintendo here and there, and then my Wii, and Wii Sports was a big thing as well at some point. I was like obsessed with that. even got the Wii Fit board stuff, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. And then when I started school, I didn't play as much anymore, which had actually nothing to do with school itself. It just kind of, I don't know, I just stopped for some reason. I don't remember why. And eventually I met someone in school who played Slenderman the 8 Pages. And I watched her play that, and then eventually decided, you know what? I'm going to download this as well. And then I played Slenderman the 8 Pages. And that's how I kind of got back into it again. And this is ever since then, there has been no day without video games, pretty much. So then how did you get into or get inspired into streaming and wanting to be, a content creator and entertaining like that?
It was more of a spur of the moment thing. Like, I never planned it. Someone gifted me Resident Evil 2 Remake on Steam, and I posted about it on Twitter, and someone was just like, "Oh yeah, right, stream it, I want to watch you play this." And then I was like, okay, why not? Downloaded OBS and was like, okay, I'm gonna play this, and then posted that I'm streaming. And I was so nervous the first time, and it was horrible. It was overall pretty scuffed as well. Like, I had like just headset mic, and I had no cam, no overlay, nothing. It was just basically me streaming the game screen, so nothing fancy. And for some reason, people liked it and was like, yeah, please continue playing this game on stream. And so I did, and then I kind of stick to it. So it was really just very spontaneous.
That's awesome, though. That's awesome. I think that, there's always different ways that you can kind of break into the streaming scene, and you actually have quite a following. What's your follower count up to right now? Not that that's your measurement of success, but it is a good number.
Well, I've lost some since I've not been streaming recently. for quite a while actually, since studies. But I've have around 1,000 followers on Twitch and 6.4K on Twitter.
Wow. And yeah, you are very active on Twitter, and I see you posting a lot of things and getting a lot of replies, and it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm lucky to get one like on something, and I feel like such a tiny person when I comment on your tweets, and I'm like answering a question that you ask or whatever, and I'm like, I have a thought. It's like, yeah, so do her other 6,000 followers, but that's okay. I specifically remember, I think one of my fondest memories of your streaming was when you were streaming The Last of Us Part 2.
Yes, that was one of my favorite streaming games.
Yeah. That was definitely a lot of fun to watch, and I promise you, Lena, if you ever pick up streaming again and come back to it, I will sub like 100%. I'm not just saying that for the show. Like I really will. You are super fun. You're super great to watch, and you just have a great sense of humor about things. And I think it's entertaining. Like some people will just sit there motionless and expressionless on the camera, just playing a video game. But I don't know, like I think about, like I had this friend when I was younger, and he used to always play these like single player games. Like I think of like the campaign mode and like Tom Clancy games, or what's the video game series Snake with Snake as the character?
Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah. And so I always think of stuff like that, and I would literally come over and just watch him play, and I'm like, this is and now I think back to it in 2022, I'm like, this is Twitch before Twitch. You'd come over to your friend's house and just watch them play, and that's just genuinely what it feels like watching you stream, which is just really, really cool. I think that the other thing that's really awesome about Twitch is like, people, and you can back me up on this because I'm sure you'll feel the same way. People always talk about like how like it's dumb watching other people play video games, but it's like, don't you watch sports? Like, how is that different?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess, or like watching talk shows or stuff like that. But for me, it's more engaging than watching sports or talk shows or stuff like that, because you can actually take part in it. You can just like create an account and actually chat with the person who is playing the game. And I guess that's part of the charm of streaming. Like, I kind of get the argument of I would rather play this myself, but I never watched streams because I wanted to see the game, but rather because I wanted to see this person play the game and react to it.
Yeah, because like I definitely agree with that, because there's another streamer that I follow. I don't know if you've heard of her. Her name's Emerome. Are you familiar with her?
No.
Okay, so I literally stumbled upon her by accident, and she's a Canadian streamer who just is a variety streamer as well, does all types of video games, and she's just genuinely entertaining to watch, and she interacts with her chat really well. She's funny, she's engaging, she plays a lot of interesting different games that you would want to see her react to with her personality and sense of humor. And it's like, yeah, like I could go pick up Horizon Zero Dawn, but like I want to watch her play Horizon Zero Dawn because I think it'll be funny because she makes comments and you get what I'm saying. No, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here about it, but yeah, that's really awesome. Talk to me about as you started growing up a little bit more, like let's talk about like high school and all that fun stuff. Like when did law like come into your life as like, this is what I want to do?
Well, that's actually kind of funny because I never planned to study this, like, ever. It was more like my whole life when I grew up, and like I mentioned earlier, I was more like the nature kid who liked going outside on their own and just like photography. And I had lots and lots of like books about, I don't know, mushrooms and all kinds of plants and stuff like that. And I ran around outside with these books, looking at certain mushrooms and trying to identify them and stuff like that. I wanted to study biology ever since. But yeah, I applied for it as well. I just never got an answer for some reason. And then I was like, what do I do now? And then since I never thought about any other option because I was just so dead set on it, that I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this and this alone. That kind of didn't work out as planned, as life goes,
Yeah.
And yeah, then I enrolled into law and got into it kind of last minute. I had my student card like 1 week before the semester started, and it was all very spontaneous, like a lot of things in my life. And I'm actually not that much of a spontaneous person. I like to have things planned.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah. And then I started that. I was like, okay, this is interesting. Then I kept going and passed all the lectures I like had to listen to, and got through the exams. Then eventually like started studying for the bar exam and got through that, at least the first part of the first bar exam, because there is like a specification part which I'm now working on, and the like state part with the basics, which is still a lot. It sounds not as much since I say basics, but it is quite some stuff to learn and to study. And yeah, so I wrote that in August now, and still waiting for the results. And I hope I passed. If I did pass the written part, then I will get an invite for like the oral exams, which I then also need to pass. And if both of that is done, I only need to do like the specification part, and the state part in itself is done then. So yeah, so the first bar exam consists of the state part with all the basics of certain like law topics like penalty law, public law, civil law. And then I specify in IT law now. So those parts it consists of basically. So yeah, that's kind of how I got to law. It's just like I kind of got thrown into it as an alternative because I didn't get like approved for biology, and then kind of stumbled upon law, and it happened.
Wow. So wait, you're still waiting on the results from your August exam?
Yeah. It's actually quite surprising, but they take their sweet time. I am not expecting it before mid to end November.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was overall 6 exams. I've written them from, let me look at my calendar. End of August it was. Nah, Google, tell me. It was around the end of August. That's as much as I can say.
Oh my gosh.
It was over 9-ish days. Each was 5 hours long. And so 6 exams, each 5 hours. So 30 hours of exams in total over 9 days. No, 8 days.
That is nuts.
I was completely out of it afterwards. I was done.
I was like, I'm thinking here, like, what's your weapon of choice? Like coffee, energy drinks? Like, what do you do?
Surprisingly, I slept well. I got my 8 hours of sleep every night, which I didn't expect, because before every exam, I was more like the nervous type of person who is more like, oh my God, I can't do this, I will fail. But this time around, because I've prepared for this 1.5 years, because, as I said, it's quite a lot to study. I had like 5 or 6 folders full of stuff I had to memorize. And to be fair, I didn't. It was impossible to know all of that. So
sure,
I did have gaps there, which, yeah, it's normal. And it was basically sheer willpower that got me through this. And yeah, on the day of the exams, I was not nervous at all. I was more like this, whatever. I don't care anymore. Just get it over with.
I just can't get over how long you've been waiting for your results. I have like debilitating anxiety, and that's all I would be able to think about while I'm waiting for the results of the exam is the exam itself, and be like, just wake up in the middle of the night, be like, oh my God, that was the answer. Or, you know what I mean? Just, it would drive me insane.
I do have that. Like, I'm preparing for the oral exams. Whether I get invited or not is still in question, but I need to prepare before that, because I roughly have around 3 to 4 weeks if I get the invitation to them to like study for it. So that isn't much. So I obviously started a bit earlier, and if I didn't pass, then I already revised some stuff for if I have to retake it, which I hope will not be the case. yeah, so I already started studying again, and sometimes I have these when I read certain things, and I was like, wait, what did I write there in this exam? Was that right? Oh no, I messed that up, and then I get like certain like flashes of anxiety, and I was like, oh god, you failed. Oh no, this is horrible, and I can already see myself getting like a panic attack whenever that letter gets here telling me, yeah, okay, this is your result, and I will probably not open it. I will probably have a little ugly cry and just gather myself before I open it.
That's okay though. I think you've earned that ugly cry after all the work. So that's okay. That's your right. With IT, is that like cybersecurity, like cyber forensics, like that kind of stuff, or?
Okay, I need to translate some stuff here because I only know the German terms.
Oh, okay.
So it is data protection law is included in that. Then specifics of civil law translated to IT law in general. Like there's certain stuff like contracts online and stuff like that has some certain characteristics that work a little different online than offline and stuff like that. So yeah, that's essentially what this is about. Also, telecommunication law is also included.
Wow, so that's a pretty big span. So once you get the degree, do you want your own private practice, or what do you want to do?
At first, I don't want to, because I kind of want to have someone who can guide me a bit at the start, since I guess it can be difficult to start right out of the bat, like on your own. And since you have no clients and nothing, you have no like references, no one who could reference stuff, who could send people to you. And I guess that's kind of scary at first. So I will look for an employer at first and maybe do my own stuff at some point, but at first, no.
That makes sense. It's like, I don't want to say like a mentorship or anything like that, because you're obviously like an equal, but just someone with experience that
you can like get experience from them that they already gathered, and you can like learn a bit from them.
Right. And then they can kind of go to bat for you. And even when they were, when they get further in their careers, they can be like, hey, this person would be really, really good for this case or to answer these questions,
and I mean,
etc.
There's always the option to like get become a partner for certain, what are they called in English? Attorney offices? No. What are they called?
Law firm?
Law firms, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can become a partner there.
Yeah.
So that's always an option as well.
Right.
If that works. Just depends.
Speaking of translation and English, your English is obviously incredible. You don't need me to tell you that. Did you learn a lot of that just from gaming and things like that? I mean, I know they push it a lot in secondary school. Is that right?
Yeah. So I started with English in 5th grade.
Wow.
And yeah, that was an experience at first, because I was so bad. I like the first 2 years of studying, I couldn't even construct a sentence, which I don't know if it was down to my teachers, which I would assume, since I had the same problem for French and I still can't speak French. But English, I kind of would say from that point on, I self-taught almost.
Wow.
Because you get exposed to it. Like, I got the basics from school, which were bad. And essentially then, you get confronted with it everywhere if you just, spend time online. So from there on out, my English got a lot better. So I was from one of the worst in the class. I became actually the best of my class by the end of my high school years.
Wow, from worst to first. That's
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's awesome. I'm curious, and just to get into like the Germany questions. how do you feel Germany's education system is? Like as someone who's gone through it, I'm just from an out, give an outsider some perspective. Like, what do you feel like it has, funding issues, or do you feel like the right things are taught, or things like that?
So one big flaw I see with our education system is that each state is responsible for their own like regulations regarding the school system. So, which is basically results in that the like graduating from, depending on which state you live in, that graduation is worth more than in other states, which is kind of problematic since like Eastern Germany generally has worse education than like the Southwest or South and West Germany have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of problematic since it's not like on like a governmental level. It's basically left to the states, and that can have funding issues since the states also have different like monetary like issues at some point, and or like in certain areas. So smaller states obviously have less like abilities to fund stuff and shit like that. And yeah, I guess that is one huge flaw I see. And our schools in general, yeah, they're very behind on like modern stuff, I would say, especially IT. IT is a huge issue. Teachers who don't even know how to like properly turn on a PC sometimes. So
oh shit.
Yeah. And then or like plugging an HDMI cable into their laptop to like get the overhead projector to the wall, like stuff like that. Basic stuff like that is an issue. Yeah, and some teachers just refuse to let pupils use modern technology.
Wow.
Which was also a huge issue during COVID now, since schools sometimes had to like homeschool with like Microsoft Teams or Zoom or whatever. And yeah, certain teachers didn't even know how they should do it. Others had no like equipment for it. And then you have the issue that some students couldn't afford to like have a laptop or something. And yeah, that is... And obviously the states didn't pay for it. So that was a huge issue. So
yeah. No, that makes sense. Cause I specifically remember going to, and it was like a German equivalent of like a Best Buy. And I went there with my grandparents, and I remember how expensive things were and how expensive electronics in general are in Germany. And on top of that, you have, I specifically, and I say this as like someone who works for Apple, I specifically remember like my grandparents were like, well, like we would get iPhones, but they're like 500 euro more than like what they would be in the States. And I was like, really? Oh my gosh. It was just, and this was before I started working for Apple. And so it was like this huge eye-opening experience.
Wait, how much are they in America?
So the 14 Pro that just came out is $999.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's 1,429 euros here.
Yeah, so not only is it more, but then you have to convert dollars to euros, which the euro is worth more than the dollar. So
not at the moment. We have
it's not? Okay.
huge inflation problem at the moment.
Yeah, we do. That we could spend an hour talking about inflation too. Yeah, no, that it's crazy though. So it doesn't help the funding issue, and I think that's something with the United States struggle with too, is like a lot of the stuff is left to the states. And so if this, certain states rank way better than others when it comes to education and funding for education, which is just crazy because it's just, that's your investment into tomorrow and the next generation, Yeah. So I'm curious when it comes to, let's talk about food. When it comes to food, what's your favorite thing? What do you think Germany should be better known for when it comes to food, or like types of food? And then if you had like a favorite, like American type of food, what would it be?
So I'm not sure if I'm the best person to ask about German cuisine, because actually it's very like there's a lot of meat and I'm vegetarian.
I didn't know that about you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm vegetarian, and I guess if you talk about German food, and like everyone will just think about beer, schnitzel, Weißwurst, and like brezeln.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, that's more because like schnitzel you can get everywhere, I guess. But that's the other stuff like beer and stuff like that. Like all of Germany produces beer, but the region that I would say drinks the most and produces the most is probably Bavaria. And that's kind of the Germany most people think of is Bavaria, with like Lederhosen, Dirndl, and like mountains and cows who live on the mountains and all that beer and Oktoberfest. That's basically just Bavaria. But there's more to Germany than that. But yeah, there's a lot of meat, like a lot of like gravy dishes, and like sauerkraut, I guess, is something you probably also know or heard about. That's like stereotypical German stuff, like mashed potatoes, sauerkraut, and some kind of meat with brown sauce.
Yeah. That's actually very, very popular in the States. It'll kill you to know that in the South they call it sauerkraut is how they say it in the South here in the States. But they just totally ruined the pronunciation of it. But what's funny? You just reminded me of the time that I tried to get my grandfather exposed to light beer. He didn't,
God, don't do that to a German.
He didn't. Yeah, I learned that the hard way. We went to a supermarket and he asked. He knows very, very little English. He always tries. And I love that. But he asked my grandmother a question, and she turns to me and she goes, he wants to know if there's any beer that you'd like. And I was with my ex at the time was with me, and I know she really liked Bud Light. And I was just being ignorant. I was just curious. I didn't know if, my grandfather seemed very much to be like a beer connoisseur of sorts and just know his stuff. And so I was like, do you guys sell Bud Light over here? Like, do you have Bud Light? And he was like, what's that? And I was like, oh, it's like a light beer. And I just remember the most confused look on his face. He was like, light beer? I was like, yeah, light beer. He was like, what's that?
There's no such thing as light beer over here. You don't get that.
He goes, diet? Like diet? And I was like, no.
Alcohol free? No.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was so funny. It was the cultural shock of light beer. I didn't even know that was going to be a thing, but we had a laugh about that afterwards, so it was good. I still mix Coke with my beer. I love Cola beer so much. It's great. Probably my favorite thing in the whole wide world. But is there anything that you would want the average, whether American or not, but just about Germany in general? Are there any things that you would want people to know about Germany aside from, you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier with like the stereotypical, like not everyone walks around in lederhosen and things like that. But what kind of stuff do you want people to know?
That I don't know how it is in America, since I've never actually been there, but some general things about Germans is that if they tell you that they're at that time, like if they say I'm here by 2 p.m. or like 6 p.m., that they're on the dot. And if you're too late, like in some cultures I've heard they like say or like go, yeah, I'll be there by 6 and then arrive like an hour later and it's no issue. But if you do that to a German, they will be pissed. They will genuinely be pissed. If you like start out like that, you won't make any friends in Germany. It's just like, you said you will be there then, and it could happen that if you're not there like 15 to 20 minutes later, that the person is already gone home again. So be on time. And there's also like the stereotypical stuff you hear about Germany that is just like, yeah, Germans have no humor. That's something I've personally heard quite some time now. And it's just not true. I would say we have like a dry kind of humor, more like sarcasm, but we do have humor. I just think some people might not get sarcasm as much. We're just very dry.
Yeah.
And some people could think we're serious because of that.
So Germans have a dry sense of humor. I totally agree with that. My mom has a very dry sense of humor, very, very, very much so. Very, very much sarcasm. I think I have a lot of that too from her as well. The on time thing, the punctuality thing. I was 2 minutes late to us meeting this morning. So are we no longer friends then?
No. No, just kidding. It's just like if someone tells me, okay, I'm gonna be late, then it's no issue. But if it's just like dead silence and someone just expects me to expect them to be late, then yeah, that's going to be an issue.
Oh, screw that. Yeah, that's the worst. Oh my God. Yeah. Well, you were talking about like someone being like an hour later, showing up an hour later, and I was like, oh my God, that's terrible. Like that's no, not at all.
Like I've never experienced that. Like the Germans I know are usually very strict with that. And if someone's just like 5 minutes late, they're usually going to be like, oh my God, I'm sorry. And then go on in length to explain why they're 5 minutes late. So yeah, punctuality is both a stereotype, but it's very true.
Gotcha. What other kind of things would you want someone to know about Germans or Germany in general? You're the voice of an entire country right now. No pressure.
Whatever I say will be like stereotype to Germany. I guess a lot of people also don't know, like, we are very strict with garbage recycling. That's another thing that's kind of weird over here. So we have like different kinds of trash, basically. So it's like all the food waste, like apple peels and eggshells and stuff like that, all go into like a green trash can, and like then we have like plastic and stuff like that goes into a yellow one, and so we separate our trash. And also we have a system for like bottles, where if you buy them, you pay a little more for them, but you then return them to the store again. We have like these machines where you just like throw in all your bottles and then press a little button and get like a receipt out of it and get the money for these bottles back, which is another part of recycling. So whenever you buy bottles in Germany and are about to throw them in the trash, some German will probably go and stop you and be like, hold it. You can't do that.
Oh my gosh. So like a deposit. Certain states do that here. Not very many, but a few states do that. Typically they're more of the modern progressive states, for the most part, but some states do that here. Ohio is not one of them. Big surprise, but that's okay.
What was like the aside from the light beer stuff, what was your biggest culture shock when you came here?
So I was on a really big Mountain Dew kick when I came over there, and I couldn't find Mountain Dew anywhere. And the reason I found out that the reason for that is because there's a regulation on a lot of the ingredients that are in Mountain Dew that Germany, or like Germany's equivalent of the Food and Drug Administration, basically said like these things aren't good for you, and so we won't like allow that to be bottled here. And so like I eventually found like a very weird. It said it was Mountain Dew, but it was made very differently and tasted very differently. And I was like, man, it honestly made me think twice about drinking Mountain Dew coming back to the States, because I'm like, well, if another country says this isn't allowed or shouldn't be sold, I'm asking questions now. So
yeah, I mean there's a lot of stuff like I had people who went to America like as an exchange student in school, and it was quite significant when they came back. Like all of them picked like up a lot of weight during that time.
Yeah.
And I guess it's basically just a different habits of eating and like the ingredients that are in there, and Germans are just not used to it, I guess. And I mean, there's stuff like, I think Coke has less sugar over here as well than in the US. And in general, like one girl, I don't know if it's true, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you mostly eat like toast and stuff over there and not like sourdough bread. Or like it's more common at least.
Yeah, toast is very, very common. Sourdough is not very common. Now, I granted I grew up in a household with my mom obviously having like her habits of like different types of bread, and there's always at least 4 or 5 different types of bread in my mom's house. But a lot of American households will just have toast or just have regular bread for toast, which is weird to me. But yeah, I definitely think that's a thing. Yeah, people are weird about toast here.
Germans, for us, the sourdough bread is basically holy, the holy grail of bread. And yeah, that's basically most of the stuff you get here, aside from like baguette and stuff. But if you go to like a bakery or something, you get all sorts of bread there. There's so much you can choose from, and there's so many different kinds of bread you can pick. And one girl who went to America, I don't remember which state she went in, unfortunately, but she told me that American bread tastes sweet.
Really?
Yeah. So that there's some probably sugar in it. I don't know. And that was really weird to me because I was like, yeah, sugar doesn't belong in bread.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. That's well, that doesn't surprise me. There's sugar in fucking everything in Germany, or not in Germany, in the United States. There's sugar in everything. We put sugar in our cereal, put sugar in our drinks. And then we all wonder why we're overweight because our body overstores the sugar, and so.
I mean, the obesity problem has also started to like rise in Germany now. Like, there's more people who are obese or at least like overweight here now. But let's just say Germans in general do tend to look at their like what they eat a bit more. A lot of whole foods and stuff like that. It's just something we deem as important.
Yeah. No, I definitely can agree with that. I don't think a lot of Americans prioritize that or give much thought to that as much thought to that as they should. That's definitely one of our shortcomings of many. I want to ask you one more question about Germany before we close out the show. Do you feel like, from a political standpoint, we don't have to get super in depth with this, but do you feel like from a political standpoint, is Germany as polarized or split as much as you read or see the United States being polarized or split when it comes to politics?
No, which is basically down to not just having 2 big parties, or like 2 big parties who are actually like doing something. I've heard you have more parties, but they basically don't stand a chance. So it's just basically Democrats or Republicans.
Yep.
But we have like the leftists, the Green Party, the like CDU, which is more like, I don't know, Christian liberal party, you could describe it. Then you have the SPD, which is like the worker party for like all the working force, basically. Then we have the AFD, which is more like right, not center right, more like very right. And then you have the NPD, which is that's the Nazi party. But and we also have the FDP, which is more like the I would say neoliberalism kind of thing. So yeah, we have a lot of parties, and the ones I've mentioned, except for the NPD, are in our parliament at the moment, and the leading parties currently are the FDP, the CDU, not the CDU, the Green Party, the SPD, and the FDP. There's like a coalition, and they basically are like the majority. So they get to make the decisions. So we have 3 parties currently who are in the lead.
Mm-hmm.
And they are more like left leaning, center left. Before that, we had 16 years of CDU, which was like the Christian party, which was more like center right. And overall, I would say we are more, I guess, left-leaning country. If you compare it to the US, I guess the Democrats could be described as a like SPD to CDU kind of mix between those.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the center parties. That's not left-leaning or anything. That's literally just the center. The CDU is more right-leaning. And I guess the Republicans could be more or AFD, which is very nationalist and stuff like that. And they are frowned upon here.
That makes sense. We have a really good friend on the show who is originally from the UK, grew up in New Zealand, and studied in Japan and lives in Japan. And she has described the far right of the United States as not really much of an existing party anywhere else. Like most people of that mentality get laughed at in other parts of the world. That makes sense.
We frown that party is frowned upon, and we actually deem some of those people who either follow that party or believe in the ideals of those of the party essentially as somewhat Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, as a German, that term is not thrown around so easily,
right?
Because of historical background and stuff like that. So yeah, and overall, one thing I kind of want to mention is I just read from online basically that a lot of people from the US tend to think socialism is the same as communism.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you say we have healthcare and we don't have to like take care of that for ourselves, since if you work, you pay a certain tax that goes into healthcare, and with that you are insured, like technically for free, technically not since you work for it and you pay taxes on it, but it is not free. And basically the straight of thought behind socialism is that everyone kind of works together to like create a net of safety in case you at some point can't work anymore or kind of fall out of certain things that makes certain things impossible, like for example being like going to work. So if you can't work anymore, you get like the state essentially pays you money so you can afford to continue living and don't end up on the street. Of course, we also have homeless people here, but I would say the problem is far less than in the US. And most of the time, it is that those people could get off the street, but sometimes also don't want to accept help or take the money from the state, which I kind of can see, since you don't want to rely on someone else and want to get out of that hole by yourself again. Yeah, that's just basically the community working together so no one has to like live a miserable life and get help if they need it. Like, for example, if you have, I don't know, some serious illness, you can, like, 99% of the time your insurance will pay for it here. There is no one, or at least should be no one, who doesn't have any insurance. And you can just go to the doctor, give them your insurance card, and they just scan it, and that's it. That's all you have to do when you go to the doctor here. And that's one big thing I really appreciate about this country, that if you get sick, you know someone will help you. And not in my case today, because, well, the hospital was like, yeah, no, bye. But that was more of the problem of that hospital, I would say. Since I got help in the end, since I just went to another doctor and they helped me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the amazing thing about it is that you had casually mentioned that you went to your primary care too. this morning. And I mean, for us, and with privatized medicine, I mean, even in a high priority situation, it might be a couple of days before we can get in and see someone. And you're able to see your primary care, or you're able to get help. And I think Germany is one of the countries that's doing medicine right. And I wish and hope that, eventually we can follow that example, because I and many others, I think, would be willing to pay into a system that takes care of everybody. And I think it would end up costing less more, because I think of, my mom who is, kind of, rounding a corner in her journey with breast cancer. It's just, you think about how in a country like the United States, if you don't make $250,000 a year, that financially, that can be a death sentence for you.
Yeah, that will completely ruin you. Or like I've heard, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard people that sometimes people don't call an ambulance even though they would need it, because just calling the ambulance costs money.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so true, because it's an ambulance ride is $500 to $800 depending on how. Yeah, depending on how far they have to come pick you up or whatnot. Yeah, it's insane.
That's a concept that is completely foreign to me, because if I know that if I am in some kind of trouble, if I have an emergency, I can just call. I can just call them and be like, yeah, I'm here and here, pick me up. I don't know, I'm dying. And they will be there. They come pick you up, and they won't ask any questions. They just pick you up and bring you to the hospital. And then you just give them your insurance card and everything's covered.
Yeah, I feel like that's how it's supposed to be.
I like that. That's something I don't have to worry about. And it's a good feeling, to be honest. Like, I can't imagine just living in the fear of getting gravely ill at some point and not being able to afford it. That would be something that would drive me insane personally, because I'm just used to the system so much.
Yeah. I'd love to do an episode with the other guys, and I'd love to have you back talking about kind of medicine and the differences in our medical care that we have versus what you have in Germany. I'd love to have you back if you'd love to do, if you'd like to do an episode on that. I think that'd be really fun. We're definitely, all three of us are of the same mindset when it comes to medicine, and socialized medicine is a good thing. And it helps more people, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, great conversation today, great episode. Really enjoyed having you on, Lena.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to plug yourself at all? Anything that you want to talk about or plug yourself before we go to the shout outs?
I don't know what I should plug. I guess maybe my Twitter. You can find me there at Andaria, ANDARIYA_.
All right. A lot of good hot takes on there too for video games and things like that. For
all the gaming related takes, yes.
Absolutely. So last thing we normally do on the show before we end it is we do shout outs. So is there anyone that you'd like to shout out on the show today?
Not that I currently know.
Okay. I want to shout you out for coming on the show and talking about your life and kind of being a little bit of an open book and giving people a perspective on Germany and a look into other parts of the world. And
I hope I could broaden the horizons for Germany.
You gotta broaden the horizons for Americans, because we're in trouble. But I really appreciate you having you on. Want to shout out my mom for being German and for me being a dual citizen. That makes me feel like a badass. I love it. Want to shout out Ashley, my amazing fiance, and I'll shout out the boys as well, even though they're not here this week. Miss you guys, and hope you enjoy the episode once it comes live. And if you don't, fuck you. That's your problem. Other than that, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. We will talk to you guys next Saturday and every Saturday here on the Life Midwest podcast. Take care. Have a good one. And in honor of Lena, I'm going to say, tschüss.
Bye.